Exposed to heartbreak, abandoned by my daughter, I discovered an incredible transformation that changed everything. John stood on the porch, his heart heavy like a stone in his chest as he watched Emma's car vanish down the quiet street. It felt like a scene from a movie, one where the father waves goodbye to his daughter who is off to chase her dreams. But for John, it was all too real. Emma was 22, bright-eyed, and filled with hope. She had declared her desire to escape their suburban life for the pulsing excitement of the city. And now, she was gone. There was an emptiness that settled over him, wrapping him in a cruel embrace. How could she not see the values they had shared, the life they had built together? Days turned into weeks, and silence stretched like a taut rubber band threatening to snap. John busied himself with the mundane tasks of life, but the rhythmic hum of the house felt hollow. There were no more spontaneous ice cream trips, no more bedtime stories, just the echo of memories hanging in the air. As he wandered through the dimly lit rooms that held the laughter of a little girl, tears smarted in his eyes. He had devoted his life to raising her, to instilling in her the very principles that had shaped him: hard work, integrity, and love for family. Each passing moment turned into an agonizing reminder of her absence. In a desperate attempt to ground himself, John decided to create a local food drive for families struggling in their quiet neighborhood. It was something he had always wanted to do but had never found the time for amidst work and fatherhood. As he spread the word, he noticed the warmth of the community rising around him. Neighbors he barely knew stepped up, bringing food and sharing stories, and there it was again, the pulse of real connection. It was like a spark lighting a flame deep inside him. The chasms left by Emma's departure slowly began to fill with purpose. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the food drive began to gain attention, John received a message that turned his world upside down. Emma was back, standing at his door with a timid knock that reverberated like thunder in his chest. He opened it slowly, the hinges creaking like the weight of his heart. Their gazes locked, and for an agonizing moment, time stood still. Her eyes, once so full of ambition, now reflected a struggle for forgiveness. "Dad," she whispered, and in that single word, the chasm between them yawned wide, aching with unspoken words and raw pain. Could he forgive her for leaving? Did she understand the depth of his love and sacrifice? As they stood there, an unmarked journey of healing lay ahead, a journey that would require vulnerability, courage, and love to bridge the distance. The silence wrapped around them like a thick fog, holding both promise and uncertainty. Could they mend what had been broken? Did they have what it took to put the pieces of their hearts back together? As the door hung open, the weight of their future lingered, leaving both John and Emma poised on the edge of a new beginning. Changed everything for a moment, John was paralyzed by the sight of Emma. Memories rushed back: her first steps, the laughter they shared at the dinner table, the time she had painted his nails just for fun. But the hurt still lingered, raw and fresh. He stepped aside, unable to form words, gesturing for her to enter. As Emma took her first step inside, the air thickened with unspoken emotions. Everything about the house felt the same, yet somehow different. She stood awkwardly in the living room, surrounded by years of memories they had both built together. "Are you mad at me?" Emma finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. John's heart clenched. Was he mad? No, it was more complicated than that. He had felt betrayed, abandoned. "I don't know," he finally replied, staring at the floor, feeling tears welling up. I didn't expect you to leave." Emma's lips trembled. "I thought it was what I needed. I thought I defined myself." "Did you?" She hesitated. The truth sat heavy between them. "Not really," she admitted. "I felt lost. Like I was running towards something, but I didn't know what it was." John looked at her, craving to pull her close and wrap her in a protective hug, yet unsure of what the right step would be. "You could have talked to me, Emma. We shared everything." "I was scared," she confessed, her voice cracking. "Scared that I wouldn't live up to you, that I'd disappoint you." That hit harder than any blow John could have imagined. The realization that she had been scared of him, the one person who loved her unconditionally, shook him. Sitting down on the edge of the sofa, he looked at her, his heart aching. "You could never disappoint me. You're my daughter. My only job was to support you, and I thought I was doing that." The silence between them was filled with tension and longing, both desperate for connection but unsure how to begin the process of repairing what had been broken. "I want to fix this," Emma finally said, taking a tentative step forward. "I want us to be okay again." But okay felt like such a distant place. John felt the gravity of the moment, an urge to protect his heart while wanting to honor Emma's desire for healing. "It's not going to be easy. Trust is earned over time." "I know." Emma's eyes glistened with tears. "And I'm ready. I've missed you so much." The years of distance seemed to melt away in her sincerity. He would need time to forgive, but maybe they could start taking small steps towards understanding. "Let us take it one day at a time," he suggested quietly. "Thank you, Dad." The sunlight broke through the window, warming their faces, and for the first time in weeks, a small smile cracked on John's lips. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. But just as that hope began to blossom, a sudden knock disrupted the moment, pulling John's gaze towards the door again. Who could it be? Were they ready for more surprises today? With uncertainty swirling in his chest, John opened the door, unaware that this moment would change the course of their reconciliation in a way he could never have anticipated. John hesitated at the door, his hand resting on the knob, heart racing. The knock echoed in the quiet house, blending with the murmur of his thoughts. What if it was someone else just as complicated, another piece of their tangled story intruding at the worst moment? He opened the door, and his breath caught in his throat. Standing there was Lisa, Emma's childhood friend. The last time he'd seen her, she was laughing with Emma, sealing their friendship with impromptu smiles and shared secrets under warm summer skies. Now, her expression was grave, eyes wide with concern. "Mr. Reynolds, I need to talk to you, both of you, actually." Emma shifted nervously behind him, the air suddenly feeling colder. "What's wrong, Lisa? Can I come in?" Lisa asked, her voice wavering. John stepped aside, still bewildered by the unexpected interruption, while Emma's anxiousness mirrored his own. The moment of reconnection they were beginning to share now teetered on the brink of something else entirely. Once inside, Lisa closed the door behind her, and the tension in the room thickened. "It's about Emma," she started, glancing cautiously between them. "There's something you both need to know." John's stomach twisted. "What is it?" Emma was stiff with uncertainty, her eyes searching Lisa's for answers. "It's about your mom. She's not well," Lisa finally said, the weight of her words pressing heavily against the air around them. John felt his world tilt. The sudden surge of concern for Emma's mother threatened to drown out any feelings of hurt he had felt moments ago. Emma gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. "Mom? What do you mean?" She had an accident," Lisa stammered, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I think you should both come to the hospital. She's asking for you." The mention of Emma's mother reduced everything John had been wrestling with to a singular focus, the woman who had once held their small family together. He felt the ache in his chest return but was now replaced with a haunting sense of urgency. Emma was already moving toward the door. "Let us go, Dad. We have to go see her." "Emma, wait," John said, panic rippling through him. What if he couldn't voice the fears clamoring in his mind, the fear of yet another loss, the fear of not knowing what state they'd find her in. Yet, the pain of not being there, of being absent again, was an even greater fear. Emma turned back, her expression fierce and determined. "We can't let fear hold us back again. We need to be there for her, and for each other." John could only nod, propelled by the enormity of the moment. They swiftly moved towards the exit, Emma reaching for his hand, and he took it without hesitation, entwining their fingers, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As they stepped outside, the reality began to press down on John. Their ordeal was far from over, and the road to forgiveness and healing now lay intertwined with an unanticipated family crisis. Were they strong enough for this? Would this reveal yet more truths that had remained buried? With unanswered questions echoing in his heart, John led Emma toward the car, each step heavier than the last. The car ride felt longer than it should have. Emma sat tightly gripping the passenger seat, her knees bouncing nervously. John kept glancing at her, his own worries churning alongside the engine's low hum. He didn't know what to say. Every word seemed inadequate, like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. Do you think she's going to be okay? Emma's voice trembled, breaking the silence like glass shattering. John wanted to reassure her, to promise that everything would be fine. But the truth tugged at him like a heavy anchor. I don't know, sweetheart. But we'll be there for her. That's what matters now. Emma nodded, her expression a mixture of fear and determination. He admired her courage, the way she faced uncertainty head-on, even when her heart was breaking. She was not a child anymore, she was emerging into a strength he barely recognized. The hospital loomed ahead, its cold concrete looming against the dusky sky. John parked and they stepped out into the biting evening air. The automatic doors slid open with a mechanical sigh, and they were swallowed by the sterile glow inside. They approached the reception desk, Emma's hand still clutching his like a lifeline. We're here to see Patricia Reynolds, John said, his voice barely above a whisper. The receptionist nodded, her expression sympathetic. Room 312. Please take the elevator to the 3rd floor. As they stepped into the elevator, John pressed the button, and for a moment they stood in silence, the only sound the gentle dinging. He felt Emma's breath quicken next to him, an unspoken connection of shared anxiety enveloping them. When the doors opened, John took the lead, his heart beating loudly as they navigated through the brightly lit corridor. Each step felt heavier, as though the floors were coated in lead. They arrived at the door labeled 312, and John hesitated, his hand poised over the knob. Are you ready? He asked, looking at Emma. She took a deep breath, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Yes. We have to do this. He nodded and turned the doorknob, pushing the door open. Inside, the room was dimly lit, machines quietly beeping, monitoring the fragile state of Emma's mother. Patricia lay on the bed, a pale shadow of the vibrant woman John remembered. Her eyes fluttered open at the sound of their entrance. Emma, she murmured, a weak smile breaking across her face that faded too quickly. Mom. I'm here. Emma rushed forward, her voice thick with emotion. She grasped her mother's hand, cradling it in both of hers, as if to draw her strength from it. John stood back for a moment, taking in the scene. Emma leaned over the bed, whispering soothing words, her tears falling onto the sheets. Somehow, despite their situation, he felt a sliver of hope. This moment stripped them of everything else, laying bare their connections. Patricia turned her gaze to him, her eyes heavy but filled with love. John, you came. Yes, Pat. I'm here. We both are, he said, stepping closer as guilt knotted in his stomach. They had shared so much, it felt wrong to let fear and anger overshadow the love they once knew. As they all connected in this fragile moment, he realized that their healing would not only come from attending to Patricia's wounds but also from acknowledging their own. But just then, the hospital room filled with a sharp beep, a sign that something was wrong, and Emma's grip tightened on her mother's hand. What's happening? John's heart raced. The nurse rushed in and John stumbled backward. As the panic and chaos erupted around them, John felt the fabric of this fleeting moment begin to fray. Would they be too late to hold on to the threads that connected them? What truths lay hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed amidst this heart-wrenching crisis? The nurse burst into the room, her expression a mix of urgency and professionalism. John's heart pounded in his chest, a wild drum against the frightening backdrop of beeping machines. Emma's breathing quickened, the panic evident in her wide eyes as she looked up at the nurse. Let us get her stabilized. The nurse called out to several others who rushed down the hall. A wave of white coats collided in the room, blocking the small semblance of calm that had just settled between them. "Stay with her, Emma," John urged, his voice barely finding its way through the commotion. He wanted to pull her away, to protect her from the chaos that was consuming her mother's room. But he also knew she needed to be close, to feel that connection, to not let go. Emma nodded, her jaw clenched, but her voice choked as she whispered to her mother, "You're going to be okay, Mom. Please, just hold on." Hours felt like minutes as the situation spiraled. The room pulsed with energy, each nurse and doctor moving with an intense focus. John shifted, helplessness clawing at his insides. He caught glimpses of Emma's face, flooded with emotions that flickered like a soft light before a storm. Fear, hope, worry, and love, each of them intertwined. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the frenzy began to ease. The machine settled into a more measured rhythm, but the room still felt heavy with uncertainty. The nurse turned to Emma, her voice softening. "We've got her stabilized for now. The doctor will be in shortly to discuss the next steps." Emma collapsed into the chair beside the bed, tears streaming down her cheeks. John moved to her side, wrapping his arms around her. She leaned into him, shaking with the weight of everything she was trying to carry. "I didn't want it to end like this. I didn't want her to be so weak," Emma choked out, each word a painful admission. "I know, sweetheart. No one plans for this. But she's a fighter, just like you. She fought for you all those years," he replied, his voice steadying as he sought any shred of hope to cling to. Emma looked up at him, a glimmer of determination breaking through her sorrow. "You really think so?" "I believe it with all my heart. We have to stay strong for her," he said, searching for a smile. A moment passed, and Emma squeezed his hand, each shared heartbeat as a reminder of their bond. But then, a shadow crossed her face as she glanced back at her mother. What if she doesn't wake up? What if no? "Don't think like that," John interrupted gently. "We're not giving up hope. Not now." As they collected their thoughts, the doctor stepped in, his presence instantly commanding attention. "Patricia is stable but remains in critical condition. We need to discuss her treatment options," he said, glancing between them. The medical terms felt distant, like echoes in an empty hall, but Emma's gaze was intensely focused. This was at the moment decisions would shape their future. "Is there a chance she could recover?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The doctor paused. "There are always chances, but the road will be long and uncertain. She'll need her family to be present, that will make a difference." With that, the weight of responsibility settled on their shoulders, both daunting and empowering. John glanced at Emma, their eyes locking in an understanding that transcended words. "Then we won't leave her side," she affirmed, her voice gaining strength. As they prepared to navigate this new, uncertain path, John's mind raced. What sacrifices would they have to make? What truths would be revealed about themselves, their family, and the love that sometimes falters in the face of fear? The doctor's voice echoed in the noise of his thoughts. "This will test your bonds." As they braced themselves for the long haul, the faint sound of a soft moan broke through the haze. John's heart skipped. He turned back to find Patricia's eyes blinking, attempting to focus on the faces she loved. Would they uncover the hidden depths of their connections at this precipice? And would it be enough to pull them through the darkness awaiting them? Patricia blinked a few more times, her gaze gradually becoming clearer as it locked onto Emma and John. Confusion mingled with recognition, and she attempted to speak, but only a croak emerged. Emma leaned in closer, holding her mother's hand tighter, the warmth of touch grounding them amidst the uncertainty. "Mom, it's okay. We're right here," Emma whispered through her tears, her heart racing at the sight of her mother awakening. There was something profound about this moment, the feel of her mother's hand in hers, a silent promise that the fight wasn't over. Patricia's lips parted again, this time managing to form the words. "Emma John," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper yet laden with emotion. "Shoo, don't try to talk too much," John said softly, brushing a stray hair away from her mom's forehead. "You just focus on resting. We're here for you." Emma's look of concern slowly transformed into a flicker of hope. She had a small moment of relief that felt like the first rays of sunlight breaking through the dark clouds. But it was fleeting. The reality of their circumstances was still pressing around them. Do you know what happened? Patricia's voice was weak, but the strength in her question demanded attention. You had an accident, Emma replied, trying to keep her voice steady. You've been in the hospital for a bit. The next words caught in her throat. She was terrified of how much to reveal, afraid of causing more distress to her already fragile state. A bit? Patricia chuckled weakly, the sound turning into a wince as she struggled to sit up. It feels like I've been gone for years. John's heart sank as he saw the anxiety flicker in Emma's eyes. The worry that hovered around them settled deeper into his chest. These moments of transparency were a double-edged sword. They could bring light or plunge them further into darkness. Mom, we were going to figure this out together. You just need to rest, Emma reassured her, but it rang slightly hollow, filled with unspoken fears. I know you want to take care of me, but we need to talk about what's next. Patricia's tone shifted, gaining a hint of authority. The doctor's earlier warnings echoed in John's ears. They were standing on fragile ground, trying not to shatter under the weight of words. They told us about treatment, John interjected, sensing the growing tension. But we can take it one step at a time. Treatment? Patricia searched their faces for confirmation, needing assurance that her family was still a fortress, a steady shelter from the storm. Yes, and it's okay to be scared. We're scared too, Emma said. But we're here. We're all going to fight this. She squeezed her mother's hand and saw a flicker of pride in Patricia's eyes mixed with the fear, yet there was another layer hidden behind that pride of vulnerability that stripped their roles of bravado. The feeling of becoming caretakers when those you leaned on the hardest start to show cracks. I don't want to burden you, I don't want you to see me like this, Patricia breathed, her voice faltering. The truth of that moment hung heavy in the air, each beat of silence amplifying the emotional chasm they all felt. It's not a burden, Mom, John said firmly, not allowing the weight of those words to fall into despair. You're our family. We're in this together. That's what love is. As the day rolled on, moments turned into hours, filled with small conversations and touches. The fear slowly shifted, replaced with something resembling hope as Patricia began to adjust to her surroundings. Yet beneath that hope skittered discomforts about the future they were about to navigate, and while they fought against the strain enveloping them, John's mind couldn't shake the nagging thought about what their collective past held. The unspoken words still clung to the edges of his mind, questions left unanswered. As the sun dipped below the horizon of the hospital windows, casting warm hues across the restless floor, Patricia nestled deeper into her blanket, exhaustion beckoning her back into the folds of sleep. But just before she faded away, she reached for Emma's hand one more time. Promise we'll talk about everything? Emma swallowed hard, sensing the weight of that request. I promise. But the lingering question hung in the air like a cloud. Would they really be prepared for the truths that lay within? Ready to break the silence of years gone by that might just help them heal? Just then, John's phone buzzed quietly in his pocket, slicing through the moment and leaving them hanging in uncertainty. As he pulled it out, he glanced at the screen. A call from Emma's estranged father, a name he hadn't expected to see. What could he want? And how would this phone call change everything? Emma's heart stopped as she watched John's expression shift. The small light from the phone screen illuminated his face, casting his features in an unusual shade of tension. She felt a knot forming in her stomach. Her father's name was like thumbtacks in her heart, pointy and unpleasant to see. Are you going to answer that? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The atmosphere in the room thickened with the unspoken weight of their past years of distance and resentment simmering just beneath the surface. I don't know, John replied, glancing back and forth between the call and Emma. It could be important. For a brief moment, their eyes locked, each seeing the hesitation in the other. What would this mean for Patricia, still fragile in her hospital bed? What would it mean for them? Emma's mind raced. The memories were a tidal wave, flooding her thoughts, the fights, the silent dinners, the years that had woven a fabric of estrangement. She swallowed hard, wishing for clarity. "Just take a breath," she finally said, breaking the silence that seemed to stretch endlessly. "Whatever he wants, we can handle it. Together." A flicker of determination passed over John's face as he pressed answer. With each ring, Emma's heart thudded louder, drumming out the long history that made her want to run away. "Hello?" John spoke, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. Emma watched closely as lines of concern crossed John's brow. She recalled how her father used to be the man who had once gathered them around the living room to watch movies, who could flip a pancake in midair, and whose laughter used to fill their home. But that seemed like a different lifetime, shattered by arguments and hurtful words. "Yeah, it's me," John said, his tone cool while the tension in the room stewed. "What do you want?" As he listened, Emma felt her anxiety morphing into a sharp edge of anger, twisting in her gut. She could almost hear her father's voice on the other end, confident yet laced with an insensitivity that had pushed them away in the first place. Without meaning to, she wrapped her fingers tightly around Patricia's hand, grounding herself in the present. "I won't let you disturb her right now," John said firmly, a protective edge rising in his voice. Emma felt a surge of gratitude that he was standing up for them. The realization hit her that John had become her anchor, even as they all faced their own tidal waves. She could hear the distant sound of a hospital intercom alongside John's low mutterings. It was disorienting, yet somehow it reminded her that they were still surrounded by a community of support, even in this difficult moment. "Whatever you want to say, it's too late," John interrupted, his voice cutting sharply. "You can't just show up and expect everything's fine." Emma's breath hitched slightly. She could feel the raw emotion echoing in his words. Sensing his frustration mirrored her own, she squeezed Patricia's hand tighter. After hanging up, John turned toward Emma, his expression one of surprise mixed with relief. "He wants to meet. Tomorrow." "Meet?" Emma echoed, the sheer absurdity of the situation washing over her like ice water. She felt caught between her desire for closure and the fear that would inevitably come with it. "What does he even think he can say?" John frowned. "He claims he has something important to tell us. Something that could change everything." Emma's heart raced. Could this be the turning point she had been waiting for? Yet, the fear draped over her like a shroud. What if it's just more lies? "Then we deal with it together," John said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. The conversation hung heavy in the air, each word swirling around them in the bright hospital light. It was a moment that felt more fragile than glass, poised to shatter or mend them all at once. Then, looking back to her mother, Emma realized Patricia was watching them closely. Her eyes, though weary, sparked with renewed determination. "We'll talk," she mumbled, breaking the tension. "But first, let us rest," Emma replied, feeling the mixed burden of excitement and dread. And as the night wrapped around them, Emma felt an unexpected flicker of hope kindling inside her. What could possibly come from this meeting with her father? And would it be the bridge they needed, or the final nail in their family's coffin? Tomorrow would reveal an answer. As dawn broke over the hospital, Emma awoke to the hum of machines and the scent of antiseptic. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting stripes across Patricia's still form. Emma rubbed her eyes, aware that today would hold more than just the usual routine. It would hold the weight of past wounds and choices yet to be made. She could hear the faint sounds of John in the hallway, shuffling about, probably searching for coffee. In that moment, she felt a rush of love and gratitude for him. He was a constant through the chaos. As she looked back at Patricia, peaceful yet fragile, Emma felt the gnawing knot in her stomach tighten. She had no clue what to expect from her father, and even less about how that would affect her mother's recovery, or their future. Emma stepped out of the room, the fluorescent lights illuminating her path as she found John leaning against the wall, coffee cup in hand. His dark circles betrayed a sleepless night, but his smile was genuine. "How did you sleep?" he asked. "Not much," she admitted. "How about you?" "Same." He sighed, sipping his coffee. "But I'm here for you, Em." Whatever happens today, we'll face it together. His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket, offering a moment of solace. They both knew that the day ahead could either put them back together or tear them apart for good. As they made their way toward Patricia's room, Emma's heartbeat quickened. The meeting with her father loomed over her like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash everything she had kept hidden. What could he possibly want that would justify years of abandonment? Do you think he has changed? Emma asked, biting her lip. John shook his head, a frown pooling on his brow. It's hard to know. Change can be a long road for some people. Just be cautious. Protect yourself first. Emma appreciated his concern but felt torn between hope and despair. Could she ever trust her father again, even if he had something huge to reveal? As they stepped into Patricia's room, the comforting beep of a monitor filled the air, grounding her again. Emma smiled at her mother, who looked up and returned the expression, though there was a flicker of anxiety in her tired eyes. You okay, Mom? Emma asked softly. I will be, Patricia replied, her voice low but firm. You both have a lot on your plate today. Just remember that you have each other. Her words hung in the air, an unbreakable bond that both soothed and scared Emma. She felt as if they were perched on the edge of a cliff, the wind howling around them, threatening to push them into turmoil or perhaps lift them above it all. The clock ticked down the minutes until the meeting, amplifying Emma's sense of urgency. Each sound felt stark and loud, the distant chatter of nurses, the shuffle of feet, and the rhythmic beeping of machines. She needed clarity. What did her father think he could say that would peel back the layers of hurt? Soon, the hour arrived, and with it, a knot twisted in her stomach. John reached for her hand, a grounding force in the moment. You're strong, Emma. Remember that. Yeah, let's just see what he has to say, she replied, her voice barely a whisper, uncertainty flooding her thoughts. She took a deep breath and stepped out of the hospital building, where the sun blazed brighter than ever, casting warm light over the landscape. The world felt charged with possibilities, but also with shadows of the past, threatening to overshadow everything they had tried so hard to rebuild. As they got into the car, Emma turned to John, her expression a mix of fear and determination. If he tries to hurt us again, we'll handle it, he affirmed. Just focus on what you want from this. But just then, the phone buzzed loudly, an incoming message from an unknown number. Emma hesitated, her finger hovering over the screen before she finally opened it. Her breath caught in her throat. Meet me where it all began. I have answers. Emma's heart raced, pounding against her ribs. Was this the change she hoped for, or a trap set to ensnare her once more? She locked eyes with John, knowing he felt the shift in the air too. Let us get this over with, she said, her voice trembling but resolute. As they drove away from the hospital, Emma couldn't shake off the feeling that she was stepping into the unknown. What truths lay ahead? Would they bind them as a family or drive an even deeper wedge between them? Answers awaited, but was she ready for them? The drive felt endless, each mile stretching into a memory. Emma's mind raced, reliving moments from her childhood, times when her father was around and times he simply vanished. She felt like a ship adrift in a turbulent sea, with no sight of land. Where do you think he means? John asked, breaking the ethereal silence that hung like fog inside the car. I don't know. Emma drummed her fingers against the steering wheel, her palms slick with sweat. Maybe the old house? The park? That coffee shop? Each option felt like a haunting reminder of missed chances and lost connections. Whatever it is, we'll face it together, John said, his voice steady. He reached over and squeezed her hand, grounding her in the present rather than the storm brewing in her heart. They drove in silence for a while longer, the sun's rays slicing through the clouds, illuminating their path but casting ominous shadows around them. Emma's chest tightened with each passing second as she envisioned her father's face, the same one that once lit up her childhood, now marred by regret and distance. Would she even recognize him? When they finally arrived at the location that loomed large in her mind, an old cafe she used to frequent with her father, Emma felt the weight of familiarity crush her. Dusty memories rushed back like a tide, pulling her under. The faded yellow walls held whispers of laughter, but now it felt like an echo of pain. "Are you ready?" John asked, his eyes searching hers. Emma nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. She stepped out of the car, her legs trembling. The bell above the entrance tinkled as she opened the door, each chime a harbinger of what lay ahead. The aroma of coffee and pastries flooded her senses, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling in her mind. Inside, the cafe was quiet, save for a few patrons draped over their mugs, lost in their own worlds. She scanned the room anxiously, her heart pounding louder than the buzzing of the espresso machine. And then, she saw him, her father, sitting at a corner table, his back turned. Emma froze. "Em?" John's voice pulled her back slightly. "You okay?" "I don't know." It felt wrong to approach him like this. What if he's still the same person who walked out on us? Then we leave. "But you deserve to know, don't you? You deserve answers." Taking a deep breath, she straightened her spine, determination flooding her veins. She needed to seize this moment, whether for healing or closure. The choice was hers to make. With each step towards him, Emma felt the heat of her anger and love clash inside her. The memories came: unbidden family dinners, late-night heart-to-heart talks, and all the laughter that seemed to evaporate overnight. "Dad?" she called softly. He turned slowly, and for the first time in years, their eyes locked. A myriad of emotions flooded his face: sadness, regret, but above all, a flicker of hope. "Emma," he whispered, his voice breaking, laden with longing. The tension in the air was heavy, but within it, Emma felt something shift: a tremor of recognition, a glimmer of forgiveness waiting to bloom. This moment could either unravel or redeem them. But before she could process the torrent of emotions, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, shattering the stillness of the moment. Fumbling, she pulled it out, glancing at the screen. Another message, and her heart raced once more. "Don't let him trick you. You have one shot at this." Suddenly, the ground beneath her felt unsteady. Emma looked from her father's hopeful eyes to John's concerned expression, her world tilting dangerously. What was the truth? And who was she supposed to believe? She took a deep breath, staring at the man who had once been everything to her, now just a figure cloaked in shadows. "Are you ready for this?" John asked, the weight of his question soaring above the whirlpool of confusion. Emma's heart raced as moments slipped away. With a single idea entwining her thoughts, she asked herself, was she strong enough to uncover the truth, even if it hurt? The cafe held its breath, waiting for Emma to decide. What would she unleash when she finally took that next step? Taking a deep breath, Emma stood at that crossroads of her life, her heart in her throat. She buried her trepidation and stepped forward, each stride fueled by the urgency of connection, the need for resolution. "Dad," she said again, firmer this time, the word tasting like both a plea and an accusation. He looked up fully now, his eyes shimmering with vulnerability. "Emma, let's not waste time, okay?" "Why now?" she interjected, her voice steady, but the tension coursing through her was electric. The air hung thick with unspoken pain and long-buried memories. "What could you possibly say to make this right? To explain why you vanished?" He flinched at her words, a shadow of the father she remembered flickering across his face. "I never meant to hurt you, Emma." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. "I was lost. I thought leaving would be better for everyone." His voice broke, the honesty spilling out, almost raw. Emma felt the urge to shriek, to tell him that abandoning them had done the opposite. The pain had festered, stretched thin between good memories twisted in betrayal. All those years of silence and anger crashed over her like a wave, but she couldn't drown in it now. "What do you want from me?" "I want to make things right. I know I can't change the past, but I can try to be better, try to be the father you deserved," he said, desperation creeping into his tone. "Why should I believe you?" she asked, tears pooling in her eyes. "You left." Before he could respond, John stepped forward, protective yet open. "Emma, this is your choice, but remember, actions speak louder than words. Healing isn't a simple promise." They looked from her father's pleading eyes back to each other. John's unwavering support warmed her heart. I know I've made mistakes, Emma, her dad continued, voice stronger, but I've spent every single day regretting them. I've been working on myself, trying to understand how I ended up here. I want to show you that I can be different. I can be better. Silence enveloped them. Emma glanced down at Patricia's old cafe table, the familiar scratches and coffee stains telling stories of laughter and love. But now, she felt the gnawing pain of abandonment linger in her heart. Can I trust you? She searched her father's face, looking for signs of the man who could fix what was broken. Was he just words, smoke and mirrors? Or maybe, just maybe, could he be genuine? Her phone buzzed and she glanced down at the ominous message that taunted her, "Don't let him trick you." It was a reminder of the walls she had built around her heart. But what if those walls were also blocking out the possibilities of something real? In that moment of hesitation, she felt John's unwavering presence beside her, like a lighthouse through the darkness. With him, she realized she could navigate this storm. I want to believe you, Emma said, her voice softening as vulnerability pushed away the sharp edges of hurt. But it's going to take time. That's all I ask. I know I can't rush this, he replied, tears forming in his eyes. I've missed so much of your life. The cafe faded into the background, the noise softened by the sincerity of the moment. A new kind of warmth began to fill the space between them, changing the heaviness into something almost hopeful. As time stretched, Emma moved forward, wrapping her arms around her father. He enveloped her in a tight embrace, bursting with emotions they hadn't shared in years. The warmth surged through both of them, filling their cracks with tentative love. You have so much to catch up on, Dad. Mom needs our strength, she whispered, stepping back to look into his eyes, seeing the sincerity reflected there. Then that's what we'll do, he nodded, galvanizing determination coursing through him. As Emma turned to John, she could see they were ready to embrace the challenge ahead. They had battles to fight, family crises to confront, but together. And now, they were armed with the unity forged from past pains. Let us go back to Mom, Emma said, a smile breaking through her tears. John took her hand, squeezing tightly, the warmth reminding her of their unwavering bond of family. And as they walked toward the door, Emma glanced back at her father, whose face was a bright canvas painted with a new beginning. Today marked the start of something transformative. Together, they would turn wounds into wisdom. Little by little, piece by piece. Together, she affirmed, stepping outside into the sun where every shadow melted away and hope loomed bright ahead. Before they drove off, Emma took a quick glance back at the cafe, a symbol of old memories now replaced with new beginnings, and just as they pulled away, her phone buzzed again, but this time, the message didn't matter. Because no matter what awaited them next, they were united, stronger, ready to face anything. Now's the time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now and show your support, this matters. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about Emma and her father's journey, and please, share this powerful story instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. You need to be part of this journey, so don't wait not even one more second. Your support makes a difference.